DJ Tips Studio with Wednesday Wisdom. Why less can be more in DJing and producing. So if you find that you're overwhelmed, you're overbuying, over analyzing, over learning, if you're just overwhelming yourself with too much gear, music, trying to learn all the techniques, trying to perfect stuff before you move on to the next step in this hobby of DJing or in your producing. In other words, if you are doing too much, then there is another way. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Why less can be more in DJing and producing. So just a bit of housekeeping. This is a live lesson from the studio of Digital DJ Tips. We are a day late. There's a little story about that, and that's why it is a one-off Wednesday Wisdom, not a Tuesday live lesson. We had a power cut here where we're based in Gibraltar yesterday. Not any old power cut, a major one. It took the whole country out for 7 hours. So just after lunch, everything went down in the studio. The generators kicked in, but they couldn't hold everything. We lost emergency phones across the whole of the country, and the internet went down. So I couldn't do yesterday's Tuesday live lesson. It finally came back literally as the sun was setting over the mountains, and we were very grateful for that. So yeah, a contractor put a big drill through 3 of our 14 power cables. So there you go. So this is a one-off Wednesday lesson. So that's the housekeeping. That's why we're here on Wednesday as opposed to Tuesday. And it's a topic that's interesting and it's been bubbling away and I wanted to share it for a while. Lots of things have made this topic our topic for today. The first thing is I'm in the middle of reviewing these little record decks from Reloop. They only play 7-inch singles, so they don't even play 10-inch and 12-inch singles. Less, right? They are record decks. They are not controllers with looping and cues and key shifting and beat gridding and all that stuff. They're just record decks. And look what I've got in the middle of them. A tiny little old-fashioned rotary mixer. It's got volume controls. It's got one effect, a high-pass filter. And it's got one set of EQs for the whole mixer. Don't even get them for the individual channels. And that's about it. Less is more. Trust me, I've been having a lot of fun on this gear. So that got me thinking about less is more. And then I remembered, I went through my whole DJ career, as anyone of my age did, until, the mid-2000s, not even knowing what a CDJ was, never mind anything else. We were just playing on 2 turntables. But also, students have been, over the years, not just recently, but over the 15 years of our school, students have been coming to us saying, I'm going to become perfect. I'm going to spend 3 years becoming brilliant, and then I'm going to play a headline set at a festival. Or I really want to learn DJing, but I've learned that this piece of gear, and they insert the name of a piece of gear that costs an awful lot of money and that's brilliant, is coming out next year. So there's no point me doing it until I get that because I won't be able to do it properly. Or I've just downloaded 6 terabytes of music that someone gave me that their dad left them or whatever, and I've got them all in my collection now. So finally I've got more or less enough music to get started. How do I organize it and choose what to play? I could go on. All of these people, all of these situations are a very simple problem, which is too much, too soon, too fast, missing the point entirely. And another thing that made me think about this was I was chatting to Steve, who is, some of you will know Steve as our scratch tutor here at Digital DJ Tips, big hip hop fan. He was reading the Dilla Time, Jay Dilla book, biography. And one of the things that the author of this book, looking at the late great Jay Dilla's life, was talking about was how when he finally got some success and some money and the record label was throwing stuff at him, he was building like big studios and stuff, and he kind of lost it and realized that all he really wanted was his Akai MPC, the thing he's always made music on. So his studio, while he did start using software to help and so on, his studio still had the MPC 300 bang there in the center. And he realized that limitation was a feature, not a bug. And look, if you look into this, which as someone who's been creative, I'm into photography and writing and so on, a lot of people in a lot of creative areas will tell you less can be more. And so it does apply to DJing as well. Now here at Digital DJ Tips, the way we teach DJing, as a lot of you will know, in our book, Rock the Dance Floor, is gear, music, mixing, performing, and success. That's what this area here in the book is all about on page 4. And so I'm going to give you an example of why less is more in all of these areas here. And if you want a copy of the book, by the way, you can grab it for free at the Digital DJ Tips website. Just head to digitaldjtips.com, click join us. It's free to join, and we'll give you a copy of the book to say thank you. We want you to have this. So let's talk about those 5 areas then. So firstly, gear. If you limit the gear that you have got and you learn to use it well, especially when you're returning to DJing, and maybe you've done it in the past on record decks, you certainly won't have done it on decks like these because they didn't exist, but you know what I'm saying. You will find that you serve yourself much better by getting simple gear and only learning the most simple things on it, because that's enough to get started. So look, gear's amazing. We're not here to say don't buy the best gear. That's cool. The way we teach students though is to start with something cheap and simple. This is our current best recommendation, just a simple, cheap controller, which can do most things with most software most of the time, right? It's not perfect at any of them, but start with something like that. Learn just the basics on it, and then learn more on it, and more, and more, and more, until you really need to upgrade, because at that point, you'll know what you want to upgrade to. Less is more, right? This has got more in it anyway than this or anything else that we ever learned on had. So look, that's good. It's good enough. Don't overthink it. Get something simple and then make that next purchase when you know what it's going to be. So if you limit the gear and you limit what you try and do on the gear, you'll find that you get more ideas, because instead of thinking, oh, what new thing can I learn? You think, what can I learn to do with the stuff I've already got? It's a subtle shift, but it moves you into the mindset of this gear is here as a tool to help me be a better DJ, not this gear is here because I love gear and therefore I want better and better and better DJ gear, right? It's all there as a tool. People who use expensive gear with lots of features, they already know that. And if you skip learning that, then extra gear isn't going to make you a better DJ. Right, let's move on to talk about music, the second of our 5 areas we're gonna look at here. So with music, the thing is, it's very, very easy to acquire by means fair or foul an awful lot of music nowadays, right? Hence my little gag at the beginning about the DJs, and we do get them saying, hey, I've just got 6 terabytes of music. What do I do with it? The point is, you'll be better served by emptying your DJ music collection entirely, so there's nothing in there, and then only collecting over time, slowly, the music that really moves you, the music you genuinely really love. Because only by doing that can you have any hope of developing a style in your DJing. Your style is not what you've got, it's what you haven't got. It's what you choose to leave out. There's a really famous fable about a sculptor, about someone making a sculpture out of a piece of marble. I can't remember who it was, someone extremely famous from Greek or Roman history or something. I'm not very good at that stuff. And the story goes that someone said, how do you create a fantastic, let's say an elephant out of marble like that? And the artist said, I just take a massive piece of marble and I chip away everything that isn't an elephant. And I love that story, because what it's telling you is your style is what you haven't got. Your style is what's left after you've taken away the things that aren't important to you. So if you're worrying about, oh, what's my style going to be and so on, just get the music that's really important to you, nothing else, and trust that over time something will emerge that's interesting and that's useful. Plus, it's impossible to collect all the world's music anyway. Back in the day when we went to record stores, we'd all be fighting over the same 5, 10 copies, 1 copy even of a song we really wanted. Now everyone's got the same stuff anyway. So it's another argument for leaving stuff out. Less is more, because you can't get any hope in hell of hearing, never mind buying, everything that's out there nowadays, even if you wanted to. So let's move on to the third of our 5 areas. The third of the 5 ways that we teach DJing in our book and in our course, the Complete DJ course, more on the website. But this is the area that the gear and the music allows you to then start doing, which of course is the mixing. It's what you do with the music on the gear that you've got. Okay, so with mixing, nowadays, unlike with this stuff, the world really is your oyster. And again, we teach it all. We teach it all. We teach in this book just the basics. And that's what I want to get across to you. In here, as opposed to in our courses where we go deeply into key mixing and looping and using cue points and using beat jumping and re-editing your songs on the fly and using acapellas, etc., 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 and stems and all that, right? In here, we talk about 5 basic DJ transitions, just 5. And I'm going to go even more minimal than what's in this book. I'm going to say that you only really need 1 or 2 DJ effects as well. And with 5 transitions and 2 effects, you could easily DJ for the rest of your DJ career without doing anything else and have a fantastic career and be very, very creative and do a lot of good stuff. Because the fewer tools that you've got, the deeper the work you're going to do with them. And it's a fallacy. It's like, do you remember when word processors first arrived, right? And everyone was like, maybe you're old enough to remember that. I do. And everyone was like, oh, wow. Instead of a typewriter with like 1 font, I've got 150 fonts. And so you used to get posters and documents that had every font, right? But it doesn't work, does it? Of course it doesn't work. Just because it's there, it doesn't mean you have to use it. And it doesn't mean you should use it. I work with, as some of you will know, some of the best DJs in the world. We've made courses with people like Jazzy Jeff, like James Hype, and so on. Now, these people are not scared of a trick. They're not scared of pushing their gear to the limits. But I can tell you that nearly every DJ that I've worked with closely, I know I've observed closely and who's taught courses with us, when it comes to things like effects, they only use 1 or 2. They might use a bit of filter and a bit of echo maybe. And when it comes to DJing tricks, yes, they've got some routines, they've got some clever stuff, but 80% of the stuff they're doing with the same 20% of skills. So even at the very, very top, these rules apply. They just apply with a couple of extra noughts on the end, really, which is what you'd expect from people at the top of their game. But look, with mixing, keep it really, really simple. Now that moves me nicely onto performing, the 4th of our 5 areas. So, you know, when you've got the mixing down, you've got your 5 techniques, you've got your couple of effects, and you've got your music nice and lean, and you've got your gear, and you're not trying to get new gear every 5 minutes. You're just learning with what you've got. Once you've done all that, it's time to think about where less is more with performing. And there's 2 areas I want to talk to you about here. The first area, and this is the biggest mistake we see DJs make, is a DJ will turn up at their gig and they will have in their library everything. They'll literally be DJing out of their full music library. And in my case, that's only a couple of 100 tunes here because it's our teaching collection. But look, some people have got more than that. And they're trying to DJ out of their whole library at every gig. I mean, that is the most maximalist you can get, right? That is the most more you can get. It's much better when it comes to playing your DJ sets, your gigs, to take just double the music that you need, just twice. Now, I don't mean physically take everything else off your computer, although I've known DJs do that. I just mean having a playlist that you've thought about really hard for that gig. Because doing that homework, saying, what am I likely to play at the beginning, the middle and the end? If that doesn't work, what would I play instead? And then making sure that you're only taking like 4 hours of music for a 2-hour gig and putting it in a playlist and only playing from that playlist, unless you've got good reason not to at the gig, will do 2 things. One, it will force you to prepare for the gig because you're thinking about it. Right? You're thinking, who might be there? Well, what if they don't come, but they come? What if it's quieter than I think? What if it's busier than I think? What if I go on earlier? What if I go on later? And everything else. You might even go to the venue and check it out because you haven't got these answers, right? You're preparing. It's like homework for an exam. But secondly, if you've chosen well and you've made sure that the music you've chosen has got a mix of everything and you've got kind of like your A list and your B list and you know what you're going to do if you have to change on the fly. Once you've done all that, what happens at your gig is that instead of being there like paralyzed, like a rabbit in headlights, you're just having a quick scan and all that thinking is coming back to you and you're in that zone where DJs watching you, jealous because they want your slot, are thinking, I wish I was like that when I was DJing. I wish I was in that position where this DJ seems to just know what to play next and the tracks are flying onto the decks and they're not spending too long messing around on their laptop or staring into space or whatever. It's a lovely place to be in. It's much easier to get into the zone when you're performing in front of other people. The second way of keeping it in this less is more mind frame when you are DJing in public is to keep everything you do simple. So have you ever seen, I'm sure you have, on a game show, right, on TV, someone forget, you know, the President of the United States, or the most famous Christian celebrity or name or whatever. You know, something utterly obvious to everyone in this world 99.9% of the time. But for some reason, when you're in public, the most simple things can fail you. So if you say to yourself, look, I ain't going to do anything clever, I'm not going to do anything that I haven't done before, I'm just going to keep it really simple, less is more when I play this gig tonight. If you do that and it works, next time you might do one thing a little bit more advanced. It's much better to have gigs that go well, where you're not really pushing yourself to the point of breaking every gig. You'll have more fun, you'll probably do a better job, and no one's really noticing. Plus, no one else knows how good you are, if you know what I mean. So just because you haven't played those tricks that you pulled off once at home, just because you haven't tried that in public, it doesn't mean anyone knows you've ever done it anyway. So it's not like they don't know what they're missing. So yeah, it's best to keep it simple. So try and do less than you would do at home with no pressure when you're DJing in public. You'll do a better job that way. So our fifth and final area in how we teach DJing, once you've done all that, once you've got the gear and the music and the mixing and you've performed, you're going to be hooked by that point, right? Playing in public hooks you in DJing. It just does. Once you've done that, there's no going back. You're going to want some success. Now, what success means to you is very different to what it means to me, to the next DJ, and so on. So we teach that there's lots and lots of ways of getting what you want out of DJing, and that's what the final section of our book is all about. It covers things like producing, live streaming, having a mobile DJ business, getting a residency, playing on the radio, etc. It's just playing parties, just doing it for yourself, making mixtapes. Success can be all kinds of things, right? But the overriding thing to remember when it comes to, okay, I've now proven that I can DJ, and this is what I want to do, is to what they call in business, in entrepreneurship, they call it minimum viable product. And that is putting the minimum effort in to get a taste of what it is you want. So I'll give you an example. If you want to live stream a DJ set, right? You want to go live and you want to play. If I turned the decks on now and got us thrown off YouTube by playing Lola Young's Messy, because you're not allowed to do that. If I did that now, I would be live streaming, right? But guess what? Here, I've got everything you can imagine. I've got cameras on all angles. I can zoom into what I'm doing on the mixer. I can chat to you here. I can give you the wide look. I can put these lights on in the background to flash. I can do all that stuff. But that's because I've been live streaming for 15 years. Well, no, actually, that's not true. For 10 years. I've been making videos for nearer 15 years. If you go back to the very first video I made on YouTube, and I encourage you to do that because I don't take myself that seriously. And that's why they're all still there. I just encourage you to go and have a look. It is eye-opening what I thought was acceptable at the beginning. But guess what? Those videos helped people. People commented, and I came back and made more and more. What I did was the minimum viable product. I used my phone, I made a video, and I put it online. And then I did it again and again and again. If you want to live stream your DJ sets, don't worry about the way that professionals do it. Just use your phone. Find a way of plugging in the audio so it doesn't sound awful, and go live. And then do it again. And you'll learn more about live streaming by doing it that way than you will by trying to perfect it. And it works in all areas. This is what I said at the beginning. The DJs who say, hey, I'm going to buy, insert really expensive piece of gear into the conversation here, and then I'm going to learn every feature of it, and then I'm going to approach the best promoters in this game, and then you're going to see me play my first gig with, insert superstar DJ's name here, and it's going to be brilliant, and that's going to be within 5 years. And I'm like, look, if that's your plan within 5 years, and I said you've got to do that in 5 days, what would you change? Now, it's much better to do the minimum viable product. Play a gig in 5 days. It might be inviting your friends around for a listening party at home. It might be a little party down in your community, in your, I don't know, your on your lawn outside your building, in the communal pool, if you happen to have one of those, or in the bar at the corner of your street, whatever. But it's much better to do it for 5, 10 or 15 people in 5 days than to have this target that you are, I'm going to tell you now, you're never going to hit in 5 years. So look, less is more. Same with making music, right? Instead of saying, I'm going to make the track that's going to change the world, just make a little re-edit of your favorite current track. Again, disclaimer, my favorite current track by a long way, Lola Young's Messy. I just love this song. Look, make a little re-edit. Make something where you change the bits you don't like, so you've got something you can play in your DJ sets that's more suited to your DJ sets, etc., etc. The whole point here is do the minimum viable product. Our course with Laid Back Luke, which we always recommend people go to if they want to start dipping their feet into making music to play in their DJ sets, is actually called re-edits, bootlegs and mashups, because Luke knows that unless you are good at doing those basic things, you're never going to produce music. And so the first course we made about production with Luke was exactly that. And that was for a very, very good reason. It lets you, the point about limiting yourself to a minimum viable product, I know it's a bit of a businessy term, is that limits let you finish what you started. And the biggest mistake people make, DJs, but especially music producers, is they never bloody finish anything. And the reason is too much choice. So less is definitely more, because it helps you to get stuff done. So set limits, time, the amount of money you're going to spend, the gear you're going to use, the scope of your project, deliver the result, and then repeat. And that's how you learn, because now you're doing DJing. And doing DJing is much better than planning it, thinking about it, investing in it, and getting paralyzed by everything that you could do instead of getting on with the one thing that you should do. That is your lesson for today. Why less is more in DJing. And now for the last few minutes, we're going to do what we always do on these shows and head over to you, because I know you will have stuff to say about this, and this is part of the fun of having a live show, which is I can come and chat to you at the end of it and see what you think. Let me know. Hello to all of our regulars here. As ever, it's lovely to see you. Kesha, Catherine, Sarah Oakley. It has been a while, Sarah. To Richard and Don and Jonathan, and to Donston, and who else have we got regular here? Mac says, I use my iPhone instead of my big clunky laptop to DJ. Funnily enough, I've mentioned Layback Luke. He's doing that as well. So there you go. Too much of everything, says Perry, is nothing. Hey, I like that. Thank you. What else are we saying? I'm just, with so many of you saying hello, which is lovely to see, and a few comments about what you're doing here on a Wednesday. Thanks to Reloop, says DJ KB, for making these little turntables. Yeah, we've just finished filming our review of these, so that's going to be on the site soon. And then I'm going to be doing some more content with them, because I've really taken to these little turntables. I think these are lovely. So look out for that review. Anyway, what else are you saying? This is from Dynamics, who says, I cut the bass when I'm mixing in the incoming track, and I literally only use filter, echo and reverb every so often. As I like to hear the song in its entirety. 2-channel mixing, not worried about 4 channels, and guess what? I've never had any complaints. Mac says that's exactly the way I make beats, keeping it simple. So thank you for that, Mac. Hello to Craig on Facebook. Benji says, back in the day, I started off using a mixer that did not even have half of the features on that Orbit. So Steve, as in my colleague and the scratch tutor here at the school, used to use a mixer, which it was a Radio Shack, a Tandy mixer. Realistic was the brand from Tandy. And it was one of those mixers that had 4 faders going up like this and a 9-volt battery in it. And Steve turned the whole mix around this way so he could use the first of the 4 faders as a crossfader. So I know what you're saying. I know where you're coming from there, Benji. Less is more. Do I really need all those effects? Say a couple of you. Well, I think we've already answered that one as well. So this is from Don, who says, the statue was already there. You just have to remove the parts that were hiding the beauty. Yeah, that's what we were talking about, weren't we? I'd love to know who actually said that, who that quote came from. So maybe someone knows. Anyway, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Thank you for that as well. Giggy says, I have no computer. I have a little DDJ 200. That's a very bad console. Well, very basic. Let's use the word basic. I'm DJing at my school parties and I'm getting very good, but I grow with this console. And I am now at the point where I want something new. Well, look, you've played gigs at school, you've used a small console, you've figured it out, and you're now going to buy an RX3. Well done. That is the exact pathway that I was talking about earlier. Much better to do that and then be sure that you're going to be spending the 4-figure sum on something that you really want, which clearly you are. Although you say you are a bit scared. Yeah, don't be scared. You'll be okay. You'll be fine there. Preparation is key, says Michael, for a successful set. Hello, Michael. Lovely to see you, my friend. Nice to get Gibraltar in the house here. And I hope you didn't suffer too much with the lack of power yesterday, my friend. Hello to all the posse over there on Twitch. Not said hello to anyone there yet. So hello Harmonic Boom. Hello NSK Charles, who says woo woo. Right, so thank you Baynard, who says hit that like button and subscribe. Is Wednesday the new Thursday, says Stevie. No, we had a power cut here in Gibraltar yesterday, Stevie, and couldn't do anything other than lie on the bed watching my phone battery go from 20 to 10 to 5% and wait for the power to come back on. And so I could feed the family. Right, this, says Steve, is cult of done stuff. Done beats perfect every time. So I have a poster hanging on my desk, above my desk, which is called the Cult of Done poster. And the Cult of Done was thought up by a couple of creatives, and they literally thought it up even before they got out of bed in the morning, literally a couple. And they thought this whole thing up and put it on the internet. And that was it, really. That was the Cult of Done. And it's something which I thoroughly recommend you go and Google. Just Google the Cult of Done manifesto and click images and it will come up. I'm looking at it now, but the screen's a bit messy, so I won't share it with you. And it is a great way to deliver. It's a great way to get stuff out there, to show some results for from what you're doing, rather than to sit there paralyzed thinking, is it good enough? I don't know. Look, get it out there and then do something better. Laid Back Luke, again, I keep quoting Luke, but he's good on all this stuff. He gets a lot of producers giving him music, right? Saying, you know, can you consider this for whatever? And Luke says, the first thing he asks is, have you made 100 tracks yet? And if they haven't, he says, come back to me when you have. Because until you have, you ain't going to be good enough. So how do you make 100 tracks? You call done and you move on to the next one. Less is more. What else? I'm going to get 1 or 2 comments before getting out of here for today. Perfection is the enemy of good enough. Thank you for that. I am Preacher Man. I wish I'd started learning on my Touch to Go. Tiny little DJ controller, says Jonathan. I moved to the Flex 10 much too quickly and I got discouraged initially. I returned it and went back to learning on the little one. If you do have big grown-up DJ gear, it's fine. I'm not saying don't buy the best gear, but don't think you have to use everything on it, right? If you say, how would someone DJing on this DJ on this? Well, you've got to find the start-stop. You've got to find the way to control where you are on the track, beginning, middle, end. You've got to find a way of changing the speed of what you're playing. And you've got to find a way of mixing from one to the other deck. And once you've done that, you can do pretty much on that. Whoops, says Phil, kicking a controller. On that, everything you can do on this. So if you've come from basic gear and you've bought gear that's got everything on it, it doesn't mean you've got to use everything on it. So don't be daunted by it, just use the stuff you need. It's okay not to use everything. Let me let you into a secret. The best DJs in the world hardly use anything on their gear. I could tell you stories that would get me in trouble, but trust me, they don't. Most hit songs are made by accident, says Mac. Yes, I think you're probably right there. Pitch, BPM and phrasing, says Harmonic Boom on Twitch. These 3 things with basic mixing is enough for 90% of the gigs out there. And for everyone asking why we're here on a Wednesday, not a Thursday or a Tuesday, it's just a one-off. I won't go into it again, but just it's called Wednesday Wisdom today. How cool is that? Right, this is from Benedict. I only really use one effect, filter, in order to keep my mixes how I want them. And that is it. So thank you for that. And I concur, filter can be plenty for mixing. Right, let's now call this off with one final comment from my friend Michael. Bottom line, it's all about the music, and it is DJing is about playing the right track for the people in front of you right now. And if you can do that, and if you can give that energy from the DJ booth to the dance floor, you have done your job. Don't overthink it. And that's where I'm going to leave it today. I hope you found this useful. If you have, we would love to have you here at the school. It is free to get a copy of our book, which if you go to Amazon, you will see it's a well-loved Bible on how to learn to DJ, whatever kind of DJ you want to be. Go buy it, go get the Kindle version, get the audiobook. But also, I'd love you to have a copy for free on us. Join Digital DJ Tips by heading to the Digital DJ Tips website and clicking the big join link at the top. And when you're ready, we would love to teach you. We have the best tutors in this game, and we have the best courses and packages to make you a better DJ. So again, when you're ready, come and take a look at that stuff over on digitaldjtips.com. Meanwhile, for me, Phil, here in the studio, on our one-off special Wednesday Wisdom, get good, get out there, make the moments, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.